Hello and welcome back to my fledgling channel. I'm Sundree, and you are watching my review of Halo Infinite, a game that already has its fair share of online videos documenting its demise. A game that made me think about memories that I hadn't thought about in years. I was originally going to make a video on Halo 5. In fact, I even made a lengthy community post about it almost a year ago, but I scrapped the entire project due to Halo 5 being not all that interesting to talk about. The campaign was overly convoluted, the multiplayer's population in current year is worse than Quake Champions, and there was this weird, cringy gag I wrote into my old video's script where I was supposed to play Pizza Tower sound effects every 2 minutes. I deleted most of the footage from the Halo 5 video anyway. No! On a completely different note, however, we need to talk about September 4th, 2019. Nintendo uploaded a Direct to their YouTube channel, and it just so happens that this specific Direct was the one that announced a new game being published by Hi-Rez, Rogue Company. Admittedly, this is a pretty strange way to open my video essay/review about Halo Infinite. Regardless, Rogue Company was set to be an online free-to-play 4v4 shooter with crossplay. I remember being pretty hyped for the game's release. When the game finally came out around July of 2020, I picked it up off of the Switch eShop, and overall had a pretty good time with it. I remember being impressed with a game like this running at 60 FPS on the Switch. Although the player base was never large to begin with, and content creators at the time weren't getting all that many views off of the game, the core gameplay was what kept me hooked until I got sick and tired of the game and moved on, and eventually everyone else did as well. Stop me if you've heard this one before. I'm asking this with complete sincerity. When you clicked on this video, what were you expecting? No matter what your answer might be, there is something to be said about the story of Halo Infinite, and I'm not referring to the campaign, although I'll touch on that too later. But the primary focus of this video is supposed to be on the multiplayer and the events surrounding this game's launch and post-launch support up until now, Which, funny enough, I think this is the first time I've ever covered an online multiplayer game on this channel. Better late than never, I suppose. Along with that, this video's target demographic is pretty much anyone who has little to no knowledge about Halo Infinite. What? On the other hand, that doesn't mean that I don't have some words of wisdom to share to those of you who mainly play Halo Infinite, or if you're a part of the Halo community in general.
Fucking shithole! I hate the fucking place! I fucking hate it! It's full of dickheads!
You could probably take this video into your next turd flinging contest with your buddies on whether or not a gameplay mechanic should be in the game. And judging by my playtime on both Steam and Xbox, I knew that me making a video about Halo Infinite would be less of a question of if, but when. Not to imply that I'm going out of my way to pad out the runtime of this video, I just really have that much to say about a game that I genuinely care about. And I don't want to come across as one of those cynical, long-form video game essayists who take themselves way too seriously and acts like their opinion is objectively the correct one. At the end of the day, I'm just a dumb nerd on the internet, and my opinions are just that. Opinions. If this was a video about any other subject, it may seem like all of this prefacing is unwarranted, but the thing is, I'm well aware that Halo Infinite in general is a pretty heated topic in most gaming circles. It's like you can't have a proper debate about Halo in 343 without it quickly turning into a Destiny stream. Listen, when I feel the same amount of stress talking about the nuances of Halo Infinite that I do having a political debate with an edgelord on Discord, I know there's a certain deep-rooted rot in the Halo community. This is all to say that if there is anyone willing to sit down with Halo Infinite and actually attempt to understand this beautifully ugly disaster, it's me. And with all of that being taken into account, here's a list of names that I've considered for the title to this video. Halo Infinite Review, A Long Way Down. Halo Infinitely Worse Than You Know. Halo Infinite Analysis, Thug Shakers Unite. Halo Infinite Analysis, Giga Stockholm Syndrome Simulator 2023. Halo Infinite, How to Game End a Franchise. Halo Infinite Review, A Legacy of Lies. The problem with reviewing Halo Infinite is that there's no separating the art from the artist, as they are both deeply intertwined. 343 is Halo Infinite just as much as Halo Infinite is 343. However, that being said, I'll try my best to give this review some semblance of structure. So what better place to start than at the beginning? Welcome and thank you for taking the time out of your day to consider watching my channel. Today I am with one of my friends, Spectral.
Hello, I'm Spectral. Everybody subscribe to Sundree or I will find you in real life, and you don't want that. So.
Yeah, subscribe to both of my channels, or, you know, the Mafia is gonna come and steal your Xbox, I guess, okay? Spectral, you have some pretty hot takes on Twitter, I assume, like from what I've seen. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, dude, I love some of the shit you say on Twitter, dude, about Halo, dude. Like,
yeah, gatekeeping being a good thing really got some great reception.
You know, dude, yeah, dude, I think the problem with Twitter, like, Reddit has this same problem, but like to a lesser extent. But like, I've always said that the main problem with arguing on Twitter is that like, tweets, at least for the most part, have like a limited amount of characters that you could put in, you know? So it's like, you can't really explain your point of view from like a nuanced perspective. And that's what causes 99.9% of all beef on Twitter, I feel like. Not a whole lot's known about the early days of Halo Infinite's development. However, according to the multiple sources I've come across, apparently there was plans for a supposed Halo 6 before Halo 5 even released. But inevitably, Halo 5 released and not many people really cared. It's clear that Halo was no longer the FPS king where you've got multiple people lined up for a midnight release and local news anchors talking about the game to fill up airtime. This was late 2015 after all. Purchasing your game digitally was starting to become the norm, and this was the same year that heavy hitters like Metal Gear Solid 5 and Fallout 4 released. Regardless, however, 343 was not all that swayed by the large portion of gamers who called Halo 5's campaign mid, and started ramping up the development of their new Slipspace engine. And even though this new engine contains a few remnants from the old Blam engine used in prior entries, Slipspace was created with the primary purpose of guiding the future of Halo. Eventually, on February 23, 2017, 343 would come out of hiding to announce one of the first things about the next mainline Halo game. The next game will ship with local split-screen co-op.
A lot of learnings from that, and I would say for any FPS going out forward, we will always have split screen in going forward.
Wow. Captivating stuff. And you might be wondering who this woman is standing on the stage here. That, my friends, is Bonnie Ross, the founder and head of 343. For simplicity's sake, think of her as the Susan Walensky of 343. You know, that's actually a pretty good analogy, because they both stepped down from their positions, and oh wait, I'm supposed to talk about that later in the video, sorry. There wasn't a whole lot of news until a year later on June 10th, 2018. Boys, it's E3 time, and 343 just dropped the mother of all teaser trailers. Things were looking up. On the same day of Halo Infinite's first reveal, 343 published a blog to their Halo Waypoint website, detailing how they're going to be listening to fan feedback while developing Infinite. Excellent. Everything is coming together. Later that year, 343 revealed that Halo Infinite's customization will be Reach-inspired. July 23rd, 2020. The Current World event is here. And amidst the Current World event, 343 decides to show off their first gameplay trailer for the game, and it was... At least we got the Craig meme out of it. But before anyone could recover from that awful trailer, we got hit with some more bad news. In August of 2020, 343 revealed that Halo Infinite would not be releasing in 2020, meaning that Halo Infinite wouldn't be the Xbox Series X's launch title. Later that same month, a report came out, and things weren't looking good. The report cited a significant amount of outsourcing, turnover, and the overall jankiness of the new Slipspace engine. Although none of the information we received could be considered shocking, it did capture just how bad things really were behind the scenes. However, it gets worse. On October 22nd, 2020, 343 would make an announcement detailing that Halo Infinite would have a new Destiny-style coding system for color customization. Rather than getting to pick your colors for free like in the past entries. Some people were skeptical. Some people were excited to see where this new system will take us. But one thing that we had in common was that all of us had to wait and see. July 2021. One of the first flights for Halo Infinite launched. For those of you uninitiated, flights are essentially test builds that 343 sends out into the wild for a limited time, with the only game mode available being practicing against bots with 3 other players. However, some people were having issues even getting into a match. I know because I was one of those people. I personally attempted to get into a match to experience Halo Infinite gameplay for the first time, and whenever the loading finished, my game would cut to black, only going back to the menu screen after 2 minutes like as if it never happened. Little did I know, this is a sign of things to come. The following months were relatively quiet, however, mostly Redditors bickering about the game's graphics. All we had to do now was wait until... Yeah. So the launch of Halo Infinite's multiplayer coincided with the franchise's 20th anniversary, when Halo CE released on the original Xbox in 2001, and for a time, it was a blast.
His name is Charles. Charles would not be happy with that play. I knew I was going to be asking for that by saying that.
Okay. Oh. Whoa. Okay.
Right, because people don't know how to sit back and look at something and go, obviously this is bait. Like, everyone takes everything so literally on Twitter. They have absolutely no chill. And I'd say the problem is, like, no chill while also being heavily opinionated, right? Like, I find it funny. The people who take the strongest stance against gatekeeping will gatekeep the fuck out of you if you're in favor of gatekeeping. They're just so close-minded that they can't get past their own, like, viewpoint to, like, see what you're trying to say. So at the end of the day, the only way you're gonna make any headway on Twitter is if you just troll the fuck out of everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So, and even to support your point, so a couple of months ago, there was this Twitter user that I discovered, because they're like one of those users who literally replies under every, like, mainstream gimmick account, so it's like you kind of see them everywhere. But anyway, there's this like really weird like Twitch streamer called like VTuber person, I guess. And literally the reason why I decided to follow them, and I'm relatively good friends with them, is because they just make a lot of really funny rage baity comments that gets people in an uproar. And like you'll see comments like, bruh, you're literally like and it's like, it's like they're literally getting reeled in. Like, I'm seeing this in literal 4K 120 frames per second, like fucking Dolby Vision.
It's crazy. See, it makes me wonder, right? Like, do they ever stop and think and go, damn, maybe I've just been being baited my entire existence on this website? Like, do they ever realize that at some point they're like
yeah, dude. Well, here's
aren't being serious.
Well, here's the thing. There's just something I learned after a while is that there's just a lot of stupid people out in the world. And speaking of stupid people, let's talk about the Halo community for a second. You're going to have to forgive my lack of Season 1 footage here. I deleted most of it a year ago because I needed more space. Most of it is going to be Season 4 footage anyway, since that's the current season as of making this video. Back to the topic at hand, Halo Infinite's multiplayer launch. There are some criticisms about the launch of the game to be had for sure, like the game shipping without a Team Slayer playlist for a month, a staple in literally every Halo game ever, and the only progression system being the Battle Pass, which, surprise surprise, you could only get XP for by doing weekly challenges, rather than playing the game well. So for example, If the weekly ultimate challenge to get that cool new weapon coding was to get 15 kills with the Pulse Carbine, you could bet your ass that every single person in every match would completely make a beeline to get that weapon first, essentially forcing people to play in certain styles that they never cared for to begin with. But on the other hand, when 343's competition was Call of Duty Vanguard and Battlefield 2042, it's easy to see which game won its launch for the holiday season of 2021. People, of course, were still upset by the fact that 343 essentially turned Halo into another free-to-play live service, and remember when I brought up the armor coatings earlier? Yeah. So Halo Infinite is the first game in the Halo franchise to paywall color combinations for your Spartan. Well, not completely. What most critics and Halo YouTubers would neglect to mention is that you're given a few freebie Cadet coatings, which are super basic colors that are unlocked by default. But at launch, we didn't have Cadet Red, Pink, Purple, Olive, Cobalt, Teal, Steel Red, Blue, and Green, or whatever Sandgrass Fields is supposed to be. So that essentially leaves us with these coatings that the majority of the player base had at Infinite's launch. Oh, what's that? You want to make your Yoroi Spartan blue? Give me $10.
Not only that, but $10 for fucking blue across all of the different types of armor cores, since one fucking blue doesn't apply to another fucking armor, so instead you're buying fucking blue for each of your motherfucking armors?
You know, Angry Joe brought up a fair point here. So the way Halo Infinite's customization was originally designed, there's several armor cores being different armor for your character's player model. At launch, we got the Mark 7, Mark 5, and Yoroi core, but as time passed, we continued to get more and more cores until we have weird sets that looked like they were made by an AI, like Hazmat. And originally, there was no cross-core customization at all, meaning that if you got a cool HCS coding for your Mark 7 Spartan, you can't use it on any other core, and fuck man, this is really starting to piss me off. I don't even want to keep talking about it. Not how the armor looks, I mean it's the best that 343's done in years, but having to explain all of this crap is a complete drag. It's disappointing because I feel like Halo Infinite has the potential to have the most robust customization in the entire franchise, but throughout its lifespan up until now, it's being held hostage by the fact that it's a free-to-play live service game first, and a Halo game second. And I know there's going to be some guy in my comments section pointing out how I have over half of the cosmetics in the game, both obtained for free through events and cosmetics bought in the shop. While yes, I did whale a fair bit on Halo Infinite here and there over the course of this game's lifespan, anyone who's been on my channel long enough knows that spending an absurd amount of money on the dumbest crap is nothing new for me. And besides, I've always been of the opinion of it being kind of weird to be judgmental of how someone else wants to spend their money. I see this mentality all the time, especially on r/Halo, and it's always baffled me. If you don't like how the microtransactions are handled in Halo Infinite, that's okay. I don't either. But I've never really understood what good would come out of attacking other players when what we should really be attacking is the game. Don't hate the player and all of that. I think that's part of the reason that the Halo community has this reputation for being toxic in the general gaming sphere online. And I'll be honest, I don't really feel like I'm all that qualified to speak on the behalf of the Halo community just yet. To get back to the subject at hand, at launch we only had a handful of game modes that we didn't have much choice to choose from because the game's playlist randomly choose what game mode to put you in, essentially taking away your ability of choosing what you would want to play. So if you wanted to play generic Team Slayer, you would have to risk queuing up for Capture the Flag, One Flag, which is literally a variant of Capture the Flag, Strongholds, or God forbid Oddball. And also, Big Team Battle was literally so broken at one point during Season 1 that it had to be taken out of the game for a considerable period of time. At launch, we only had about 10 maps to play, 3 of the 10 maps being BTB maps, and let's say you wanted to play Halo Infinite in December of 2021, around the time the game officially released with its campaign, and BTB just got taken out. That would have left you to play the same 7 arena maps on repeat if you wanted to complete the Battle Pass. Halo Combat Evolved, the first game in the Halo franchise, which released 20 years ago at the time of Infinite's released with 7 arena maps at launch. Are you seeing the problem here? I swear to God, we're at the latter half of Season 4 as of writing and recording, and I still feel a cold sweat every time I load up into one of the maps that has been in the game since launch. Also, I feel the need right now to genuinely apologize for going off on a side tangent after side tangent in a video that was meant to have some level of structure. But with nearly 600 hours of my life gone to a mediocre experience and 2 years later, I think it's high time that I give my honest opinions about Halo Infinite's past, present, and future. So let's start off where most noobs would go when booting up the game for the first time. Please ignore the current season menu background. This is Halo Infinite's tutorial. A linear training course in most FPS games are nothing new, but I like how we're given an intro cutscene into the world of Spartan 4s as the first thing that we experience. Fun fact, this cutscene you're watching is literally an interchangeable MP4 file in Halo Infinite's game files. I know this because I've personally swapped out the default splash screen intro a couple of times when playing on PC. However, if you want to do this on MCC, be advised that the Master Chief Collection takes a different format of video files. I think you have to convert your .mp4 into a .binc in order for it to work. Anyway, we get placed into this wide and open hangar area that most of the player base probably didn't explore that much. Here we can get to grips with the basic Halo Infinite controls. Sprint, clamber, and slide made a return from Halo 5, much to some people's dismay. One of the few things I'll actually give Halo Infinite credit for is that the movement in this game manages to strike a balance between the sluggish movement in the Bungie-era games while appealing to the advanced movement crowd from the previous entry. I want to state that for the record that I've never had an issue with Halo's old movement mechanics, as I've always felt that moving as slow as molasses and having floaty jumps were a core part of Halo's identity in the 2000s. Though if I had to pick my favorite movement mechanics in the entire franchise, I'd honestly choose Infinite, which isn't surprising because I grew up playing faster FPS games like Doom and Quake. But you see, the one thing holding me back from fully enjoying Halo 5's movement mechanics is just how janky it all felt. It's not something that I can easily put into words. It's like when everyone at one point on Halo's subreddit complained about when you couldn't see your character's feet when looking down. However, you actually can. You just have to turn down the game's FOV to its default value in order for it to happen. For this section of the video, I was playing on PC, so please don't bully me for having potato specs. Back to what we were talking about though, in Halo Infinite's multiplayer story, we play as a rookie Spartan 4 who just landed in a secret UNSC base that I can only assume is on Zeta Halo. I don't know really.
I said, move out, Spartan. Now.
Sergeant whatever her name is clearly disappointed in us not following her orders. So we progress later into the game's tutorial map.
Modularly designed for customization, these non-volitional AI have guaranteed stability and can be altered to suit your every need.
Personal AI, designation Butler, coming online. Greetings, Spartan. It would be my pleasure to serve at your side. I'm honored to work with you.
Oh god, he's British!
Now show me what you can do.
Oh, I forgot about that. So yeah, funny thing, the multiplayer cosmetics you put on your weapons don't change when you're in the tutorial, so if you hear some corny video game noises after a game end as Spartan, that's why.
weapon for better visibility on long-range targets.
Ah. He tells me you've performed well so far.
Bro, look at her goofy ass smile. Weirdly enough, when I actually game end a Spartan, I don't see any of the actual multiplayer effects, and the audio comes from this prop here. Just kinda weird. Anyway, the last part of the tutorial places you in a live fire map, or the live fire map I should say, which interestingly enough has AI Spartans where their appearances are not randomized like in the bot matches. I've always found it funny that smacking any of the allies here just fades to black. Extremely anticlimactic. Also, the Spartan here is wearing the Mark V Zeta helmet, which wasn't available to players until a couple of months after the game launched with the TAC Ops event. So yeah, if you wanted a traditional helmet for your Mark VII Spartan in the early days of Infinite, your only option was to wait until January of 2022. Oh, correction, the TAC Ops event got delayed for another 2 months to March. Damn. And here we have one of the only times in this tutorial where we get to see our Spartan in third person. The last part of the tutorial is just a 3-minute Slayer match with easy bots and no real end state, meaning that you could absolutely suck and the ending cutscene will still treat you like you passed either way.
When I get back, and believe me, I will be back, we're gonna be busy. Humanity won't save itself, Spartan.
Yeah, let's hope that this game doesn't get rushed out the door in 2021 and it taking us until Season 5 in late 2023 to get PvE Firefight. Okay, that's the end of the tutorial. Overall, a decent introduction to the world of Halo. Hard cut.
Dude, he was a dude. He had green nail polish on his fingers in one of his last videos last time I remember.
Green Skull?
Yeah, Green Skull. Why do I keep whatever? Either it was Spiteful or Green Skull. I think it might be Green Skull. Yeah, it was Green Skull. I'm pretty sure they were, because he was in the same position a while ago where he's just positive. I don't think that the positivity is like yeah, to a degree it is forced, right? Because he's like, I'm trying to bring some positive aspects to this community. I'm trying to, give people something to smile about, and you're not always going to feel like smiling every day. So, but in his particular case, like, he knows full well that if he made a negative video, it would do way better than a positive one. And the one time he made a slightly negative video, I saw views on that video just like skyrocket, and I think it was during the time when it was the announcement about the announcement about the winter update, how we weren't going to get Forge and not Forge, I'm sorry, split screen, right? And there was the whole hashtag Fire343 thing, and he made a video during it. I was like, yeah, things are kind of rough right now in the Halo community, and he couldn't possibly bring himself to be negative because he's worked himself into a corner to where his fanboys have locked him in this position where he has to be positive all the time. Right?
So like,
and it's like, you can tell sometimes, I feel like you can tell sometimes that he wants to say more and he wants to criticize 343, and Green Skull was kind of in the same spot, but he couldn't.
I think the problem with a lot of the mainstream Halo YouTubers who do content on Halo Infinite is that, like, they're scared of, like, getting in the bad graces of 343, or, like, they're scared, because the reason why they want to be in the good graces of 343 is because they want, like, they want the chance at getting, like, some, like, something out of it, right? I don't know what exactly, but
343 to send them cool stuff because
Yeah.
it looks good when the company interacts with the bigger members of the community. I completely and 100% understand that. So in my opinion, as far as that's concerned, that's an issue with 343 because, and I'm not, and I stand by that statement because I remember when they announced the Halo 5 Plaza remake for Halo Infinite. I forget what they call it in Infinite, but it looked like absolute dog shit and still does, right? I didn't even say anything harsh, right? I was just like, this map is ugly. Why did you, all you had to do was like keep the aesthetic the same, right?
Yeah, literally,
And
it's so easy. Literally, just like, it's similar engines. Like, I think the Halo 5 and Halo Infinite engine use a similar engine structure. So, like, literally just port the map over. Like, the 3D models exist. Like, yeah, okay, look, man. I know I'm being like an armchair game developer over here. I really don't know a whole lot about the specifics. I know the Slipspace engine has a whole litany of issues. But, like, I guess where I'm getting at is, like, there's no reason to change the aesthetic. Like, 343 has such an issue with changing crap for the sake of changing crap, you know?
Right. And Bungie learned relatively early on, and they still made the mistake every once in a while, right? But like they knew, oh, don't change the aesthetic of certain things, right? Because Blackout is a remake of Lockout in Halo 3, but it's not as well received. Some people thought it was a different map. I don't know how, but I think it was freaking Hidden Xperia. I thought it was a completely different map until he was making his ultimate tier list video. But yeah, no, people didn't like, and I like Blackout because I like the new jumps, right?
Yeah, so
I completely understand how it changes.
Speaking of like Blackout / Lockout or whatever, we've had tons of games over MCC doing, I think, like 1v1 SWAT on that map, and you'd always kick my ass. And like on that note, I honestly want to ask you that, do you prefer like the overall casual party game side of Halo, or do you like things that are like a little more competitive? As I mentioned before, Halo Infinite's campaign released in December of 2021, roughly 4 to 5 weeks after the surprise drop of Halo Infinite's multiplayer. This is all to say that despite a few complaints regarding how Infinite's multiplayer launched, morale in the community was still pretty good. However, as I'm writing the script to this video, it should be pretty obvious that 2 years have passed since then, and I'm not going to be reviewing Halo Infinite's campaign from the perspective of having any rose-tinted goggles. It isn't like I could anyway. I know this is blatantly obvious, but unlike most other games on my channel, Halo Infinite wasn't a game that I formed a connection with when I was a kid. To put into perspective how long it took for this game to even come out, I was still in high school when the first teaser trailer got revealed, and by the time Infinite's campaign finally released, I was already a cynical grown-ass man who has to deal with back pain and taxes, and waking up every morning with a new zit on your face that popping will only make worse. Halo Infinite's single-player campaign is much like the entire Halo Infinite experience as a whole, one big mixed bag, and I don't think I'm somehow profound for coming to that conclusion. While reviewing Halo Infinite's campaign, I'm going to be reviewing it with the assumption that you are all caught up on the lore of every Halo game up until this point, so for my own sake, spoiler warning for essentially all Halo media. Fucking hell. But in all honesty, Halo lore isn't exactly in my wheelhouse of expertise, so try not to get too mad at me if I get one minor detail wrong. I'll be playing through the campaign on easy mode, or as I'd like to call it, gaming journalist difficulty, and I will be playing on the Xbox Series X, as that is where the majority of my footage for this video came from. It isn't that my PC can't run Halo Infinite, it certainly can, but my PC specs are considered less than mid by today's standards, meaning that areas in the campaign will make my PC go One last thing that I almost forgot to mention before we begin. For the sake of getting footage for this video, I played through Halo Infinite's campaign a total of 3 times. One playthrough was on heroic difficulty on PC with keyboard and mouse, another playthrough on console with subtitles turned on, and another with subtitles turned off. Let's keep a pin on that, because this information might become relevant later on. I'm saying might because honestly, I'm really not sure. With all of that being said, let's take a look at what I can only assume to be one of the more polarizing mainline Halo campaigns ever made. So the game starts off with a shot of Zeta Halo, followed by the UNSC Infinity nearby, which I believe was the ship that Spartan 4 trained on in Halo 5's multiplayer lore. Anyway, the ship's being attacked for reasons that we can get into later by the Banished, with the Master Chief fighting them off the best he can. Also, something I didn't notice up until my 4th viewing of this cutscene, these Marines that are retreating from Banished forces, they're not super relevant to the story or anything, I just thought it would be fun to point out. Now I want to come out and say that I really like this first cutscene in the way it's framed. I gotta say that starting your Halo game off with Master Chief getting his ass kicked is a pretty bold move from a narrative standpoint. Regardless, Chief attempts a Street Fighter 6 combo on Atriox and completely fails, then proceeds to get absolutely dragged through the wreckage of the ship before being tossed into the dark abyss of outer space. We transition to the pilot waking up to what I'm assuming to be a valve-related issue in his Pelican. He hurts himself, and this smoothly transitions into a portable hologram of a message from his family.
How big you are? Can you sing? So big. Good. And can you sing? Mary had a good singing. How about I miss you? I miss you. And I love you. I love you, Daddy. And good. And can you say I can't wait to see you again? I can't wait to see you again. Okay, now say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
In all honesty, I can't really think of any other 343 Halo game that would handle a character's backstory like this. It's refreshing and shockingly subtle, which we all know isn't 343's strong suit. I know I'm giving 343 way too much credit here, but I'm sure that if this was Halo 4 tier writing, the game would overtly beat us over the head with telling us about the pilot's emotional grief rather than showing us. Oh yeah, the pilot finds Master Chief just vibing in space.
This is UNS.
Yeah, I know that it's pretty predictable that he's alive after, you know. So the pilot pulls him in and is understandably excited about seeing Chief in the first place.
Yes! 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 We're going home!
One of the first things we learn about him, aside from having a family, is that he wants to get away from all of the conflict. And this becomes more annoying later in the story. Regardless, he makes us do a little test that reminds me of something buried deep within somewhere in the back of my memory, but I can't seem to remember for some reason.
Let's try right.
Oh well. After Chief realizes that there's no AI in his helmet, he detaches himself from the wires to ask the pilot about what happened when he was out, and we get one of my favorite cutscenes in the entire campaign.
There's something you need to see, Chief. We lost everything. There's nothing left for us here. I don't even know where here is.
Halo. Broken. Very brave statement from 343. But before we can take it all in, the ship gets ransacked by the Banished, and while the pilot is having an absolute panic attack, Master Chief is just like,
I need a weapon.
Haha, get it? Like the Halo 2 line? Oh man, bravo 343, really hitting it out of the park already. But in all seriousness though, I really like the way this scene was handled and how Master Chief makes his way to the Banished ship.
I don't believe it. You made it. Now what?
To sum up the entire first mission, you basically kill some grunts and other low-level enemies before... Upon entering the next room, the pilot, yes, I know the subtitles call him Echo 216, and I know that you can see my mouse in the top left corner of the screen, and despite the fact that I just pointed that all out, just try to ignore it, okay? I really don't feel like re-recording footage again. I've already seen the opening cutscene like 17 times, and if I have to see it one more time, I might commit a hit. This is the room where we see a hologram of Atriox. As you know, the monkey who tossed Chief into space 6 months prior to the game's first mission. We'll get into talking about him later. The pilot keeps panicking about how over it is for humanity, and Chief isn't swayed by any of it as usual. We enter a room where, wait, Atriox is dead already? There's been a 6-month-long gap between Chief getting tossed into space and the pilot finding him. What could have happened between that time? As we'll soon get into later, Halo Infinite's story still has some of the same issues that Halo 5's story had, where if this was your first playthrough, you would only have the most basic idea of what's happening in the story.
The Banished will stand victorious. Atriox, hear these words. Even from beyond this life, your will is served. Your forces occupy the ring. Within hours, it will be under our control. Humanity will cower before your legacy. They will burn. Their praise and defiance will be all but a memory.
We have a new problem.
After all of that, we basically have to kill every enemy in the room to trigger a cutscene where Chief breaks the control panel of the ship.
Okay. And you can do that?
No. New plan. Scuttle the ship.
You are going to destroy this ship? With us in it? I'm going to die here.
Only to kill some more enemies that respond along with the 2 power coils or whatever the hell they are, followed by triggering a cutscene where Eshram mocks Master Chief.
The Spartan. No. Something better. The Master Chief returns. We thought you dead.
And we have to leave the destroyed ship now.
Okay, so 90 seconds till full charge. I hope this place holds together that long. Charge faster!
Chief flies back out into space in a failed attempt to get back onto the Pelican, only to get back onto the Pelican a minute or so after oogling at Zeta Halo. Okay, so what was the point of that cutscene then? Not to be like CinemaSins here, but if the plot was moving toward Chief getting back onto the Pelican, why couldn't he have just did that back at the banished ship? This cutscene did nothing more than create fake tension for some reason. God, it hurts my head to even think about. In the next mission, Chief decides to land on the edge of Zeta Halo in order to look for a weapon, quote unquote. The pilot is predictably very adamant about wanting to go home, and yet again, Chief is like, no, Lamau.
We're done, right, Chief? If we stay out here any longer, they're gonna come back. They'll find us, and they'll kill us. What is it you're searching for?
Match found. Signal located. Waypoint uploaded.
There's nothing there. You're looking in the wrong direction. We need to go home.
Plot the waypoint.
Requesting manual flight control override.
Do it.
In 5.
We have a new mission, soldier.
4.
What is it? What's down there?
3.
A weapon.
2.
A weapon?
1.
How many guns do you need? What is wrong with you? Remind me to never pick up a Spartan. This is a terrible idea. They're coming for us. All of them. Incoming, all directions. It's not safe.
Pull back.
Okay.
So in the second mission, we're inside of what I can only assume to be the inner workings of Zeta Halo, along with some Forerunner architecture here and there. We game end some of the banished forces, and for the first time since the opening cutscene, we hear some fragments of Cortana around. Fast forward a bit and we get introduced to the third main character in the story.
It's been 6 months. Where have you been?
What happened? Where is Cortana?
The rogue AI known as Cortana is gone. She's been deleted.
How? By you?
Of course not. Did you hit your head or something? Don't you remember? My instructions were to enter this installation, imitate Cortana, and lock her down for retrieval. Yours were to take her back to the Infinity for deletion. So if it wasn't you... Okay then.
This is the weapon Chief was looking for. She'll serve as a replacement for Cortana throughout the campaign. When this game first released, a lot of people were put off by how bubbly and childish she seemed. But honestly, I never minded it. Aside from offing more grunts and hearing more data fragments everywhere detailing Chief's past, there's not really a whole lot else that goes on in this level. There's this moment where the data fragment plays out a memory that Master Chief had in his past, and when Master Chief responds, I'm honestly not sure if that's the audio from the hologram or if he's actually just talking to himself.
Are you ready?
Yes, Dr. Halsey.
I think you guys know the drill by now. Kill more banished, and speaking of...
She was carrying an enhanced shield module. Let's see what I can find out about her. Accessing. This is Spartan Bonita Stone, recon specialist. Her vitals have been offline for nearly a month. Cause of death was an energy blade, but different, stronger. A single strike. She never saw it coming.
That brings me to another part of Halo Infinite's campaign gameplay that I haven't really touched on yet. Like in past Halo games, you can acquire equipment as you progress through the campaign, but unlike other Halo games, all of the equipment can be upgraded a couple of times for maximum efficiency. But let's be honest, the only actual equipment you're going to be seeing me using throughout my playthrough is the grapple shot. It's by far the most versatile equipment, and can be used offensively, defensively, and to travel the open world faster. The other equipment, like the drop wall and threat seeker, however, feel like they were specifically made for multiplayer in mind before anything else. At the end of the level, we get a boss fight with a banished dude that we haven't seen yet up until this point, and I'm sorry, I had to. We get back up to the surface and kill a couple of more grunts until...
Just give me a second. I should be able to get control from here.
So Tremonius has fallen.
God damn it.
The hope you stir in the hearts of your kind. Misplaced.
Oh no. Anyway, we finally get a look at the open world and...
Wow, look at this place. It's so... full of more monsters coming to kill us.
Thank you, weapon. Very funny. We work our way up this hill to this platform to clear a landing zone for the pilot. After we down all of the banished guarding the landing pad, we then use the weapon to hack into the banished's network to basically make this HQ's ours now. One of the many that we'll receive throughout the campaign. So where was I before going off about the campaign? Oh yeah, the release of Halo Infinite in December. So get this, roughly a week after Halo Infinite's campaign releases, we finally get our hands on our first event that has nothing to do with anything Fracture related. If you don't know what a Fracture event is, it's okay, I'll explain that later. But on December 21st, 2021, 343 released their Christmas event for Halo Infinite before going on holiday leave. An event called Winter Contingency. And it's just a small event pass to get some less than stellar cosmetics. But hey, at least they added the basic Slayer playlist sometime after the campaign launched, which I think I probably touched on earlier. I don't know, man. I think I have dementia. I'm starting to struggle to even remember what I've even talked about in my own video. Yeah, the holiday event lasted from about December 21st to January 4th, or in layman's terms, 2 weeks. And there was a sizable period of time leading up to Season 2 of Halo Infinite where there was pretty much nothing going on with the game besides the odd event here and there. But look on the bright side, at least the seasonal battle pass isn't locked to a limited time. Yeah, that was one of the few good things about Halo Infinite in general. Unlike every other major free-to-play game that was out at the time, 343 decided to make it so that you can buy any present or past battle pass and complete it whenever you want. As nice as this was, however, this was before Halo Infinite reached seasonality, which is what literally every other live service game has. Yeah, that's right. Season 1 of Halo Infinite lasted roughly 5 months, which may not seem that bad, but you gotta remember, most other free-to-play live service games launch with a new season practically every 2 to 3 months. So suffice to say, Halo Infinite's multiplayer in early 2022 was basically a free-to-play live service, but without any service whatsoever. My creations are supported in part by my fans, and by the following. The only thing that would change would be the items in the shop every Tuesday afternoon, but even then it would all be cosmetics that you most likely already bought. Combine all of this with the overall jankiness of the network desync issues at the time, the only progression system being through the battle pass and completing challenges, and having to play on what felt like the same 6 maps on repeat. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why the vast majority of players who checked out Halo Infinite at launch all left, the only ones left being Halo YouTubers and the Halo community, us. It was almost like we were lone wolves. Pretty ironic name to give to Season 2 of Halo Infinite. I remember the day that Lone Wolves released on May 3rd. I opened up Halo Infinite, checked to see if they implemented any cross-core for the armor sets, and then realized that they didn't, and then closed the game and didn't come back until a few days later. They added a new multiplayer cutscene for Season 2. That was cool, I guess. They also added 2 new armor cores, with one of them being Eagle Strike, which is a fracture core, with fracture cores being essentially alternate universe what-if type scenarios where if the Halo that we know to be canon is different. For example, the Tenrai event from Season 1 being from an alternate universe where Halo has more of a Japanese Edo period aesthetic, where Fracture Entrenched, the universe where Eagle Strike comes from, has more of this 1930s diesel punk military aesthetic. I didn't know what diesel punk even was until 343 decided to use that word in their official blog post. On a completely unrelated note, however, Season 2 brought 2 new maps into the game, an arena map, Catalyst, and the BTB map, Breaker. Finally, an arena map that doesn't take place in a UNSC building. This is also where they introduced a couple of game modes that weren't in the game yet, like King of the Hill and Land Grab. Along with that, the Battle Pass had slightly better cosmetics than the one from the first season, and if you bought the Battle Pass and completed it, you could get your 1,000 credits back to spend it on whatever you see fit, which was a pretty neat addition, even if every other free-to-play live service game was already doing that. Along with all of that, there was some other small tweaks like adding more options in the Academy training mode. And for a good while, that's how 343 handled updates for Halo Infinite. They would drip feed the smallest amount of content, add 1 or 2 more armor cores into the game, and then lock the majority of the customization behind the shop, which I wouldn't even mind, to be honest. But the problem is, when the only incentive to play Halo Infinite is to obtain cosmetics and to get a higher rank in competitive, what content is there for the people who aren't incentivized by either? That's right, nothing. Because who's gonna want to stick around and play a half-baked crapshoot of a game with the most shoddy skill-based matchmaking you can think of? I never felt pressured to be on my A game when I play social game modes in Halo MCC, so why do I feel like I have to sweat in Halo Infinite just to scrape by? And it wasn't like the weekly challenges changed or anything, it was still a lot of the same stupid crap that forced you to play certain game modes that you don't like. Overall, despite the additions brought to the game in Season 2, the same issues from Season 1 were still present, like desync, the lack of local or online co-op for the campaign, some of the items in the shop costing way more money than they're actually worth, and then the theater mode still being broken. Little did we know in Season 2 release that it would be another 6 months before the next major update for Halo Infinite. This is pretty much what spelled doom for any chance that Halo Infinite had to redeem itself. And before anyone asks, yes, I know that there's some details I'm glossing over, like the multiplayer storyline involving a banished AI, the 2 new Spartans, and the entire existence of HCS and competitive Halo as a whole. I mentioned earlier on in this video that the primary focus of this video was to talk about the multiplayer and the general post-launch support surrounding it. And honestly, I don't think the existence of the Halo Championship Series and those free limited time Twitch drops during HCS count as proper post-launch support. But then again, I'm speaking from the perspective of a player who isn't motivated solely by getting cosmetics. I remember only being excited for the new stuff added in Season 2 for about a week and a half before running into the same boredom and frustration I ran into with Season 1. And so it began. The infamous Season 2 Halo Infinite content drought. These were truly the dark ages for Halo Infinite. Not gonna lie, with the development of Halo Infinite essentially slowing down to a crawl at the time, it gave me a lot of time to sit and ponder about Halo's place in the current video game landscape. And ponder I did. At this point, I had already completed the Season 2 Battle Pass, and had no real reason to keep playing unless I wanted to either buy some stupid cosmetic in the shop, or snag the weekly Ultimate Award. And see, this is the problem with making this very video. I feel like I'm going in circles even writing the script to this video, repeating my same tired, cynical points over and over again like a broken record. I felt like this earlier on, but now I feel like it's becoming more apparent, and it's not something that I can simply ignore. The truth is, I'm absolutely conflicted on how I feel about Halo Infinite. I can't confidently say that I've enjoyed my time with the game, but on the other hand, I can't necessarily say that it's not a good game. I mean, I can say that it's not a good game, but I feel this weird sense of guilt whenever I peddle Halo Infinite and by proxy 343 as the worst thing ever. Like, as if I'm not telling the whole truth. After all, this is the first review I've ever done for a game focused on online multiplayer, and although it may not be the first review I've done for a game with a sizable fan base, it is the first review I've done for a game that still remains to be a point of contention in the online video game sphere as a whole. If you take a quick look at my YouTube channel right now, you can deduct that I don't exactly review the most mainstream games by any means. This is all to say that in making this video, I really do feel out of my element. Like, I'm kind of like a fish out of water, you know? Everything about this game is just so bizarre to me. I've never played a game that felt so much like a passion project and like a soulless corporate product at the same time. Not even Cyberpunk gave me this much whiplash between the two extremes. So I think you can get the picture by now. In mid-2022, us Halo fans were not exactly eating good, which was all the more reason to get excited for 343's next update on the development of Halo Infinite that was rumored to go public sometime soon. It's been radio silence for the most part, other than the odd announcement about something like the Halo cookbook here and there. Oh look, they finally uploaded a video. I'll get back to you guys once I get done watching this all the way through.
That's right, because you can't count on 343 to make clear, definitive deadlines for absolutely anything.
The correct answer to the question, who is the worst game developer, is 343 Industries.
How does Microsoft let this dog water of a development studio still fucking work on their biggest media IP?
A game that already has its fair share of online videos documenting its demise. A game that made me think about memories that I hadn't thought about in years. I remember this game I used to play. It wasn't any ordinary game, however. It was the very first video game I've ever played in my entire life. I remember being super into it though, even if I was a bit too young to understand anything going on in the game. It was called Halo. It was a console-based first-person shooter. I may have had a bit of a difficult time understanding how the game worked, but I loved it. This alien alliance called the Covenant are trying to wipe out humanity, and they crash-landed on a strange ring-shaped planet along with the UNSC. A simple, yet timeless sci-fi story. If the Covenant get their way, who knows what horrible fate would befall humanity. But there's one man who's willing to rise to the challenge. That's right, it's our favorite mean green alien shooty machine, Master Chief. Master Chief takes the fight to the Covenant. To get the upper hand in the Human Covenant War, he and Cortana, his personal AI, pursue the secrets of the Halo Ring to find whatever the Covenant were afraid of, and potentially use that as a weapon to turn the tide of the war. Then, when he finally makes it to the swamp where Captain Keyes was... Wait, what happened? How did it end? I can't remember. Shit, I totally forgot. It's like the ending is completely gone from my head. Completely gone. Like what happened to the majority of 343 staff earlier this year. But that's not the end of our story. Far from it. November 8th arrived, and with it, the Winter Update, or as people called it, Season 2.5. It was alright. I certainly welcomed the new content after the massive drought of Season 2. Namely, the first little taste we got of Halo Infinite's Forge, which is pretty much the best Forge mode we've gotten in any Halo game to date. At this point, however, we couldn't play any Forge maps in official matchmaking, only through the new custom games browser, which felt like the code for was being held together by duct tape. But it was alright, because this was only the beginning of the new changes to Halo Infinite to come. They also added in Campaign Network co-op and mission replay for the campaign. Yes, basic features, I know, Along with that, they released a free 30-tier battle pass that contained all of the Reach cosmetics that went unreleased during Season 1. This was huge for me, because after a year of Halo Infinite being on the market, I could finally equip my favorite helmet that I've used in every entry prior to this one, CQB my beloved. All armor cores are free now. Along with all of this, 343 launched their Match XP beta, so gone are the days where the only way to get XP was to complete challenges, rather than just playing the game well. Like I said, small but important steps needed to get the game to where it is today. And the last big change that came with the winter update was the addition of 2 more arena maps in matchmaking, Argyle and Detachment. These would be the first of many more Forge maps to find their way into official matchmaking. The map count in official matchmaking went from 10 maps at launch to over 40 plus where it sits at now today. The road to get the game to this point certainly wasn't easy. I mean, hell, even the writer for the Halo Waypoint blog admits as such. And none of this is to say that with the release of Season 3 and Season 4 that there hasn't been any setback whatsoever. Like Sketch, the community director at 343, waiting until the night before Season 4 released to tell everyone that they scrapped the multiplayer story. To this day, I still think that's one of the more shadier things that 343 has done recently. But there's this small but noticeable trend of actual improvements being made to the game. And it's getting to the point where it's getting harder and harder to sit there and be like, well, it should have been there at launch. Yes, all of this should have been in the game at launch. I completely agree, but it's clear that the newer crew at 343 want a redemption for this game just as much as we do. After all, most people these days are pretty obsessed with the idea of a redemption arc, expecting every bad game to turn around for the better like No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk. This isn't to say that there's anything wrong with that, but as I'm making this video, 343 and the Halo community as a whole are currently riding high on the Season 5 hype train. And to be honest, I can't help but feel a little excited myself for the future of Halo Infinite. I've been pretty harsh on 343 throughout this entire video, and with good reason. They've had a pretty shoddy track record with the Halo franchise over the past decade, and honestly, I'm past the point of caring about who's to blame. This is all to say that although Halo Infinite is in a much better state today versus when it launched, we also need to be cautiously optimistic about whatever direction 343 takes. Remember, it isn't like they're making the game better out of the kindness of their heart. They're doing it because Halo Infinite flopped that badly throughout the majority of its lifespan. There were some days during the Season 2 content drought where the MCC surpassed the player count of Halo Infinite, which wasn't that large to begin with. Not to mention that there's some other worrying factors regarding Halo Infinite that I haven't ever seen anyone really talking about. Like, what's going to happen when the servers for the game inevitably shut down? Can you play this game in any capacity after that? Are all of your precious overpriced cosmetics just going to cease to exist? You can't fully install a physical copy of Halo Infinite while your Xbox is offline, so what's the point of the disc? I'm asking these questions as someone who cares a lot about video game preservation. Like I said earlier on, I've sunk an unhealthy amount of hours into Halo Infinite, and it'd suck to see all of that be but a distant memory, but in all seriousness, I love this game. For all of the janky spaghetti code created by contractors and questionable business decisions, I still find myself enjoying Halo Infinite in the same way that I would enjoy consuming large quantities of fast food. It can't be good for me, but I feel great. The way I see it, one of the biggest hurdles now for 343 is the Halo fanbase being split into 2 extremes, what I call the Bungie boomers and the 343 apologists. One faction that got lost in the sauce of nostalgia and wants Halo to never evolve past 2010, and then the other faction that constantly justifies everything that 343 has done. Essentially younger Zoomers whose first Halo game was Halo 4. Both have a metric ton of emotional connection to the franchise. both provide very compelling arguments as to why they're in the right. But last but not least, both are the most irritating people that I've ever had the displeasure to talk to. I mean, seriously, the Halo subreddit got temporarily shut down after the multiplayer launched because 343 employees were getting doxxed and sent death threats. Guys, look at this Kotaku article headline. This is how they see us, and this is how they'll continue to see us if something doesn't change. But I'm a firm believer that if 343 changes for the better, then so will the player base. At least I hope so. Something I haven't really told anyone is that my entire reason for sticking with Halo Infinite for this long is because of a promise that I made to myself years ago. A promise that no matter how this game would turn out, I'd see this game through until the very end. Admittedly, this was back when we actually thought that this game had a 10-year plan. But I've stuck with Halo Infinite since the flight days in mid-2021, even through the darkest moments in this game's history, questioning my faith in the franchise and eventually my sanity. I mean, there were times when I really didn't enjoy this game, but I still kept playing out of a sense of obligation. Am I stupid? So, where does that leave us? A rough launch, awful post-launch support followed by halfway decent post-launch support almost 2 years later. Honestly, I'd say that much like Halo Infinite's campaign, 343's reputation hasn't really gone anywhere. It hasn't necessarily improved by any means, but it hasn't really sunk any lower either. But maybe that's okay. I've accepted that there's no changing the past. The best that we can do is find ways to relive it. Halo Infinite has seen a tiny resurgence in popularity in recent months, which tells me that there's still a sizable crowd that played the game at launch before stopping, but they're interested in coming back. To conclude, when I get a DM from one of my friends on Discord telling me to hop on Halo for a game night with the boys, I finally remember. I finally remember all of the memories that I haven't thought about in years. I remember what Halo meant to me.
You ever wonder what's up there? Like what? Maybe someone up there was wondering what it's like here. I guess. Do you think we'll ever meet them? I hope so. Don't you?
Halo. It's finished.
No. I think we're just getting started.
Hey everyone, if you watched this video to this point, I want to thank you for doing what most people wouldn't bother doing, and don't be afraid to help a bro out and hit that like and sub button. It does wonders to help me in my ultimate desperate struggle in the YouTube algorithm. And since I know that it takes me forever to upload anything on my main channel, I'd suggest checking out my second channel. I'm currently working on uploading the full version of the conversation I've had with my good friend Spectral, which I've used for the chapter transitions in this video. Hopefully I'll have that out by next month, but who's to say honestly. But if you don't want to do any of that, I sincerely appreciate the time you took out of your day to listen to some dumb nerd ramble about video games. I want to thank all of my viewers and subscribers for making video projects like these possible. I know that I don't upload very often on this channel, and I'm honestly trying to be better with that. Truth be told, this is my last big video I'm putting out for 2023. And I'm kind of disappointed that my video output this year was pretty much the same as last year, if not worse. I had plans for a couple of other games that I wanted to do a review for this year, but I couldn't get to it. Hey, post-edit Sundree here. I'm adding this super late into the video, but yo, shoutouts to my man's ROM Breaker for letting me use his music in my video. Big ups to him. Please go check out his music. Okay, post-edit Sundree out. And this might come as a surprise, but this entire video was a pretty large undertaking for me. You don't make a video like this unless you really give a shit about what you're talking about. And I hope that shows to some degree or another. Speaking of which, after this video, I still intend on making more reviews about video games that most people have forgotten about. So please don't subscribe to my channel thinking that I'm dedicated to one video game franchise and one game franchise alone. I also post memes, hot takes, and channel updates on Twitter as well. I'll drop the links, of course, but until then, I think it's time for me to see if Season 5 of Halo Infinite is going to be any good or not. Until next time.
Sundree.